Good afternoon. My name is Amol Nirgudkar, and I'm the CEO of Patient Prism. And thank you for joining us. I'm here with my friend, Vin Cardillo, who is the founder of Maeva Dental Advisors, and Paula Fontana, who's with Maeva as well, and she is the Vice President of Culture and People. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Amol. Great to see you again, and great to be here with you.
Absolutely. We are, and Maeva, if you don't know it, they are an incredible company. They provide C-suite services to dental groups and practices all over the nation. And by helping them kind of build and strengthen their infrastructure for running a successful dental support organization. It's an immense concept. I love what they do. There's nobody like them in this space. So it's wonderful to see the work they've been doing. So thank you. The conversation today is a little more serious about the crisis we're facing with the coronavirus, and it's every single American or every single citizen of the world is thinking about how this affects them, and we are here because we want to talk to our industry about what's happening, and then. You guys advise dozens of DSOs around the country. What are you hearing from clients right now with respect to this crisis?
Well, look, we've been all hands on deck since Sunday afternoon, to be honest with you, because we've had clients preparing closure for Monday morning, on what was going to happen at Huddle. So it's been 2 days of 2.5 days of really intense work with our founder doctors, team here at Maeva, and their operations people to really put together a plan that's going to support the organization and their team, right? I mean, this is all about the people and how are we handling everyone with the coronavirus itself and people's livelihood.
So are you calling the clients yourself, or they're calling you asking questions? What's the dialogue? What's the first question they ask?
We're on the phone with them. One of our departments is on the phone with them. Each department's on the phone with them every week. So there's multiple touch points. So we've been on the phone with all of them every day this week. All of them at different stages of putting together this process to roll out that we started developing Sunday evening and is now turned into a pretty robust list.
You ran DSOs for over a dozen years. You have the experience. Obviously, you've not seen anything like this. This is very unusual. You probably went through 9/11. That was a little different. But this affects every single state, every single city, every single county. So what are the top priorities right now for practices that are preparing to either close down completely or just being open for emergency care only? What are the top priorities? What are they looking at? Are they wanting to shut down completely, or?
There's direction from different folks. There's been directions from governors. There's directions from local dental associations. This morning, the ADA came out with it. And, in our conversation earlier, you said, Trump said, don't go to your dental office. So it's kind of all over the place. And, we have a client in a state where the state hasn't mandated anything. And they're saying, well, it's not mandatory from the ADA. So right now we are staying open because this is a group that does a lot of sedation dentistry. So these are cases where people have scheduled months in advance. So for them, it's a little bit nicer because we're starting to prep with them while they're open. The other folks we've had to prep with where, the next morning they closed.
And if they're planning to close, then what is their top priority? I mean, what's top of mind for them if they're planning to close?
So I think it's 5 top areas, right? And then Paula is probably better equipped at more of these, but Number one is really communications. I mean, we have to communicate with patients. We have to communicate with the team. And as we know, there's never enough communication.
Right.
The second is, what's our human capital plan? Who is staying? How are we keeping folks? Are we paying them? Are we not paying them? Are we keeping people full-time, part-time? Thirdly is, as we were talking about early, is, expense management and cash flow management. What are our variable costs and what are our fixed costs? And, we're working with our clients on a 30-day analysis of exactly what this expenditure is going to be like. Fourth is marketing, right? What are we doing with marketing? Are we turning it off? I mean, we have some real interesting things happening with some ortho clients where we're launching some teledentistry for new patient visits. So you can have a free consultation with a teledentistry technology. But again, we're everyone's scrambling to put this together, and we have other clients saying, look, well, we're going to close, but we want to stay open for emergencies for a half a day. We don't want our local hospitals to get inundated with dental procedures. So we're going to take them and we're going to do some advertising around. We're going to switch our TV and our radio campaigns and say, hey, look, we're really closed. However, for emergencies and to help our community, you could come see us.
Sure.
And then fifth is, the operational plan, everything that I talked about in others, who's managing this, how's it getting managed, and how are we making sure each one of these items and the 30 below each of those are actually getting completed in the next X amount of hours.
Interesting. And Paula, I do have a lot of questions for you, but before that, I do want to ask you then about managing expenses. You talked about managing expenses and cash flow. That's the key, right? You obviously you don't want to run out of money. All of a sudden the incoming cash flow goes to, let's say, 50% or 25% of what it was. And you still have fixed costs. Like variable costs will go down. So there's going to be a fixed cost that you will have to sustain. So what are you saying in terms of managing expenses and cash flow?
Yeah, so we're really building out a pro forma that shows this. And
Nice.
look, the biggest problem here is, or the biggest expense is, if people are laid off, they have to be compensated for their vacations. So many of these practices, or some of them, are going to get hit with an enormous, if there's carryover from last year, obviously,
Right.
vacation time that they're not expecting. And realistically, for the next 30 days,
Right.
It's not going to be that bad because, the ortho folks have AR coming in.
Correct.
The general dental folks have AR coming in. But come day 31, we have a new world. Day 31 on, that AR is reduced dramatically, and your fixed cost is now really fixed. So we're really looking at cash today, expenses, AR receivables for this 30 days, and the same thing in the next 30 days. And we're seeing in that second 30 days, that AR number drops, and that's where it gets real concerning.
And then based on that, you're going to kind of say, okay, here's what we are going to cut. Here's what we're going to postpone. And that comes into, Paula, your discussion about people. People are the most important asset that a dental practice has, or any business has, right? It really, without the people, we can't operate. In my organization, we have amazing people in your organization and in the dental organization. Obviously, without these team members, you can't win championships or play the game. So from a human resources standpoint, I think every dental office around the country, whether you're a DSO or the single dental office, has questions about, what do we do? Like, is it furlough people? What does that even mean?
Right.
Let them go, unpaid.
Right.
So what are you advising? I'm curious.
Well, I think, Amal, the first thing is that what we're advising our dental owners is you're the leaders of your practice. So you have to be able to communicate confidence, leadership, and really help people who are afraid right now, because there are a lot of things that are unknown to them. And it's
Right.
just really important that they continue that communication with them, and they make sure that their employees feel that there is a plan, which is why we're doing what we're doing, and we're creating that plan with
Nice.
them. But at the end of the day, we have patients that we have to be able to care for. And that means putting together a core team of professionals that are going to be able to provide, the treatment that emergency patients are going to need. So doctors are going to have to make some decisions about who is going to be on that core team. And they have to do that through asking for volunteers as well. It's really important that they're not requiring certain people to come into work and then others not to. So if a doctor were to ask another doctor to come in and treat patients on an emergency basis, that doctor has to be comfortable doing so. So the first part is figuring out what people are needed in an emergency situation. And then the second is to figure out for the rest of the people, do we do a complete reduction in force on a temporary basis? And lay everyone off, which does mean, to Vince's point, we'll have to pay some money up front for those benefits that they've accrued.
Sure.
and that they've earned, and that's an unexpected upfront cost.
Sure.
But the other part of it is, if we do a complete layoff, communicating out to our employees that there are benefits available to them through unemployment. Unemployment has been very receptive. And I think in many states, they've loosened the requirements so that people can get access to those benefits immediately. The other option is, do we have a team that's in place where a number of people just have reduced hours and they're working fewer hours every week, or fewer days for that matter, than they've previously committed to, which allows them to be able to continue working and also continue to earn some money. And I think the other option, and I've been through crisis situations before in other industries that I've worked in, is ensuring that you have somewhat of a mobile workforce, and the practices that have remote access from a technology standpoint into their scheduling software and their practice management software, their call center operations, those practices are finding it easier to be able to handle the changes to the schedules, patient questions and information that needs to go out. And you have to be able to determine what percentage of our workforce, if any, can work remotely, and then ensure that they have access to the technology that they need.
It's hard though, right? I mean, if you don't have, at this point, if you don't have a cloud-based solution or some way to access it, you can't do it now. But have you seen, I mean, I don't know, this is still new. Let's say you go down to your core team, it's one hygienist, one assistant, one doctor, and maybe one person at the front who is on a reduced hours basis to kind of manage your office manager, maybe it is. I wonder if we could recommend, I mean, if you're there's nobody there and you're open for emergencies, would you want to call patients and say, hey, you have a hygiene appointment. I mean, or is it too risky?
Well, right now, what most of the practices are doing is, opening for emergency purposes only. So doctors have to have a protocol in place where they all agree what constitutes an emergency or an urgent visit.
Okay.
And most of the time, what we're recommending, or what we're hearing that doctors are recommending, is, a situation where a patient is in pain, or there's risk of infection. Those types of situations, they're warranting as emergency or urgent care situations. And they're moving some of the other patients out a bit further in the schedule to accommodate for what could be emergency situations.
And Amol, I'm seeing, we're hearing, the dentists, I think they understand the risk more than us lay people, because when we're having conversations,
Right.
They clearly have a different and a much deeper understanding of the impact that this can have
Sure.
on people just because of their schooling than I do.
But so I guess so right now the advice for you guys from you guys is that kind of look at your expenses, look at your cash flow, kind of do a pro forma. And pro forma is a great idea, by the way. It kind of you can kind of identify exactly where you need to cut and where the problems are, and then have a communication strategy, as you said, Paula, with your team members on between yourself, but also with patients, right?
Yes. And I think what's important is that this is not an event. It's continuous communication with, your employees and with the patients.
Right, because I think are you seeing or advising your clients on some communication protocols they need to have with patients, saying that, hey, we are we're compliant, we're following the guidelines from CDC and OSHA, and we're working hard towards seeing you back, and kind of calming them down a little bit.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of hysteria out there, right?
Well, that goes back to my initial statement around it's a dental practice owner's responsibility to be a leader in this situation, and that leader has to take responsibility for having a plan. And it's very important, especially if you're laying off people or you're impacting their compensation in any way, that you communicate to them why that's happening and what you're doing about it, and reassuring them that this layoff, if there's a layoff or a reduction in hours, has nothing to do with their performance. It really is a result of us having to respond to regulatory requirements, state and federal guidelines, and we're doing it for their safety. And they're getting that communication consistently and repeatedly throughout the course of this week. And as we get new information and as adjustments are made and changes are made, we're communicating that out to people. Initially we were thinking we might be, reducing people or workforces to just a few people, and who knows, we may end up going into something that's much more significant, but we'll keep people posted as we hear that information.
Yeah. And we're working with some of the teams to do a weekly Zoom call with all the team members, and the owner doctor given a weekly presentation. I mean, right now everyone's prepared for this April 7th, but we don't know if it's going to go beyond that.
Right. And what do you, from an HR standpoint, what do you tell people that, if obviously if things turn around, you want them back, right? I mean, these are your good team members. You've trained them, you spend time with them, nurturing them, and so obviously there is a risk that they will obviously apply somewhere else, and you might lose them, which would suck quite a bit. But are you telling them that, hey, this might be temporary, or do you want to not give them promises because you don't know how long this will last?
Well, what we're suggesting and we're advising is that we communicate what we do know, that currently this is a temporary layoff, or this is a temporary situation that the ADA is advising us on, the CDC is advising us on. They're giving us a beginning and a potential end date, and that's what we're communicating, and we're letting people know, as I said, this is not a reflection of your performance or your work. Sure. And our hope is that you will be recalled back to work as soon as we are sure that the virus is contained and we get that direction.
That makes a lot of sense. No, this is great. I mean, then any parting thoughts? I mean, I think this is great information for our clients and the industry. How are you really getting your doctors to stay calm during this time?
Well, doctors take that Hippocratic oath, so they're already committed to caring for people, and I think that that's part of what drives them anyway.
Sure.
But this is, an unfortunate crisis, but it's also a lesson for us in preparing for the unforeseen. And it also shows the best in people when everyone rallies together and they come together for a cause and they work towards solutions and they work toward making the best decisions for not only their patients, but for their people that work for them. So we're just encouraging people to use, really good judgment, to ask questions, to come to us when they're not sure, and to make sure that if they do have questions, they're looking for answers before they make snap judgments. Vin, would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's important for them to be the leader, right? To stay positive, to be that coach, to keep everyone and knowing that this too will end, and when it does end, we will come out together stronger as a team. I mean, I think that's one of the most important things, that they need to believe and focus and bring their team along. And they personally need to know that they will get through it. And they just need to sit and organize their situation, and one step at a time, work their way through it.
I mean, this is really great advice, and it's so timely. If I was running a DSO, I would have you guys on my side, because you've dealt with these situations before so many times, and I feel calm after just talking to you, which is great. Now, thank you so much for your expertise. The situation is pretty fluid, right? Every day is a new day, and things could change. Maeva Dental Advisors, you can check these guys out at maevaadvisory.com, right? That's the website. Yep. And I think they're abundant enough to provide anybody with guidance. Vinny always takes my phone call, even if I'm asking him a silly question. I think their number is 413-259-4600. And if you have a question, if you're not a client of Maeva, call them, ask them a question, because they're willing to help. All of us are willing to help here, because we love this industry. We love what this industry does to people and how it changes people's lives. And we're going to come out ahead of this, and people are going to still need their dental work in 2 months, right? They're still going to need it. So it's just a matter of getting it all buttoned up for the next 2 months, making sure that we know what the expenses and income is, and putting some protocols in place for your people and your patients. And I think we're going to all come out ahead. So I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing this expertise.